What's up? Good afternoon. Welcome to Cohn and Kruger. That's Larry Kruger. I'm Grant Cohn. And it's funny with the Niners and injuries. Like you know there's going to be multiple injuries every week. It's just the way it is with this team. And there's always one that they reveal in the Monday conference call, sort of like, oh, by the way, last play of the game, this happened. And nothing they can do about it. Bryce Huff apparently pulled his hamstring right at the end of the game and is going to miss at least 2 weeks. Hamstring can be 3 weeks sometimes. That's not great. He was really playing very well, and they were finally playing well as a defense without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. What is your takeaway from this news?
Well, I mean, the Niners could lose two guys at the team picture. The Niners could lose somebody at a family barbecue. I mean, the Niners get together for lunch, and somebody's going to be added to the injury list. So,
by the way, Upton Stout injured his ankle in the last play of practice. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And if you notice, it's never anybody who's totally horseshit. It's always somebody who's like vitally important, who's awesome. Yeah. It's never some bum. It's always somebody who's just awesome. Sorry about that to the bums out there. Bum's probably no longer a PC term anymore. But no, as far as the Huff thing, Crusher. First of all, how awesome is he? And I heard you last night driving home. I heard a little bit of it, and I totally agree with you. I've been saying this. Huff is the best defensive end the Niners have had opposite Bosa since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have been here. He's better than all those guys. Way better than D Ford, Ebukam, Drake, Chase Young, the guy who dogged it in the title game. He's better than all those guys. He's unbelievable. He's so fast. He's got the dip and rip. He can go parallel to the line to the ground and bend, and he's like Gumby. He's just awesome. He's an awesome player. But you know what? I do think he'll get better. Obviously, it's going to be a couple weeks. That's bad and that sucks. But it's nothing crushing. He'll get better. Hopefully it's nothing that's going to derail him too long. But I do think that the fact that the Niners even have Huff is the height of arrogance and hubris. And the Niners did this. Like when you think you're really good and rolling and nobody can stop you, that's when you make stupid decisions. When the Niners thought they were rolling, they gave Charles Haley to the Cowboys. When Howie Roseman won his second Super Bowl and decided that his didn't stink and that the Niners were not a threat, he handed a team that could beat him in the playoffs a really good edge rusher when they didn't have one. It's like throwing your most hated rival a life preserver as they're drowning in the ocean. And it's the kind of move that you only do when you're at that point where you're like, hey, we're untouchable. We're untouchable. So we're going to do something that's illogical. And yes, this is a bad injury, but on the grand scheme of things, Huff is going to get back. And Huff makes me think they got a shot. They can find somebody opposite him.
Yeah, it's interesting that he actually counts more against the Eagles salary cap than the 49ers salary cap. And they could get out of his contract after next year, but why would you want to? His cap hit next year for the Niners will be $5.3 million. That's 1.7% of their estimated cap for 2026. Like, he's one of the biggest bargains on the team.
No doubt.
He's a
great player too. He's a truly great player. He's a problem for all offensive tackles, and he just gets in that 4-point stance, comes firing out. I'll tell you, the other fallacy was that this cat was terrible against the run. He's not. He's not terrible against the run. He's pretty good against the run.
He's everything they wanted D Ford to be. D Ford was never a real good fit for this defense. He was more of a 3-4 outside linebacker. Bryce Huff is so comfortable in that 4-point stance. He explodes out of it. And yeah, anyway, he's going to be on for the next 2 weeks. They won't have him against CJ Stroud. They won't have him against Jackson Dart. I still think they can win those games. I mean, it's interesting how many players they keep losing on defense, and Robert Saleh finds a way. Like, I still have more concerns about the offense scoring points in the red zone than I do with the defense, because Saleh's blitzes are working so well right now. He may not, you always need pass rushers, but he still may find a way to generate a pass rush without Bryce Huff for 2 weeks.
I think I told you Thursday or Friday of last week. I think I said, I think the Niners may lose this game, but I think it's going to be a super low scoring game. I think Robert Saleh's defense is going to come to play. They're going to keep this team down. Sure enough, they kept them to 10, but the Niners had way more offensively in this game than I thought they would have. I really thought Atlanta's D-line was going to party in the backfield. After the first play, they sacked Mac Jones. Zach Harrison did on the first play. I'm like, oh, my God, they're going to have 10 sacks tonight. And that was a precursor to nothing because the Niners ran the ball down their throat. They went a lot of gap scheme, and they just kind of bullied them.
I know, and if I told you before the game, like, it's going to be essentially a running game, Christian McCaffrey against Bijan Robinson, who's going to win? I would pick the Falcons, but the Niners and Tatum Bethune did such a freaking phenomenal job on Bijan Robinson. It was almost legendary. Talk about Tatum Bethune in a minute, but we got more injury news. Jake Brendel left the game with a hamstring injury. He's been sort of like the least popular player on the team for a couple of years.
Right.
They insist that he's good and they like him, but it's hard to say why. But I don't want to kick a guy when he's down. He's going to miss some time, and Matt Hennessy is going to replace him. Seemed like in this game that was an upgrade.
And the funniest thing about it, I thought Kev brought this up to me, my son, after the game, and it's a great point. Every time guys like me or you or anybody says, hey, you got Drake Nugent and you got all these other guys. How about Hennessy? Brendel? Yes, Brendel's got a good PFF grade, but he looks bad to us, and he's not getting it done here, not getting it done there. And we always get that answer, like, and then it's always like an answer part lecture from like the real knowledgeable football crowd who supposedly is going to talk down to us and say, you simpleton, you don't realize how big it is to change out the center. Changing out the center is all the line calls and all the changes, and it impacts every play because he interacts with your quarterback and blah, blah, blah. You know nothing, talking head. And then we asked Mac Jones, hey, you had to trade out your center in the middle of the game. Brendel left and Hennessy came in. Was that a big interruption to you? He's like, no, it's nothing. We worked together hand in glove. It was, not a big deal. Pretty simple. It's like, well, what is it? It can't be both crucial and no big deal. Mac Jones, pretty simple. So I thought that was kind of funny.
I think it's interesting how Kyle Shanahan is so like particular about his centers. He needs the center to be as smart as the quarterback, if not smarter, maybe smarter. And to win that job, you have to like either spend time as a backup and really learn the system inside and out. And once you do, he's gonna believe in you. And I think for him to go down and Matt Hennessy to sort of show the coaching staff like, you can trust me, I can do it, is big because they should be playing the best center, not just the best, like the guy who's best in meetings. They should be playing the best athlete. And if Matt Hennessy can show that he can sort of handle the mental load, then he should be the guy. He's younger. Jake Brendel isn't good by any metric. Watch him, look at the stats, not good.
Football is a young man's game. There's a big difference between 27 and 33 in the NFL. Now, Jake Brendel, people say, oh, he's a Pro Bowler. No. He was a Pro Bowl alternate 3 seasons ago. That's what you mean to say when you say he's a Pro Bowler. No, he's not. Matt Hennessy's 27. Jake's 33. So Jake was a good story. He's a street free agent. They needed him to give them a couple good years. He did. One of those years, he was a Pro Bowl alternate. He's a success story. Let's not make it, let's not turn a success story turn him into a fan villain because you're asking him to do, I think, more than he's capable of. I'd like to see Moss. I'd like to see Hennessy. I'd like to see somebody. They weren't getting any push or any pop in the run game. And in this game they did. So you know what? I'd like to stick with what works. And I haven't totally gone through the film Grant on Hennessy as far as I want to take some time later tonight when I have a few more hours and take a look at it. But the people that have say that he looked really good.
I don't want to be too dismissive because I haven't watched enough, but it feels like he's at best going to be like a good bridge center. I'd like to see the Niners and Kyle in particular get back to drafting and developing these players. Why don't you to get a center in round? They've never drafted a center since Kyle Shanahan's been here. Draft a center. Nick Sakel doesn't count. Stop trying to strike gold with the Ben Barches and Matt Hennessy's of the world. They might give you some good play for a while, but ultimately, I think you need to draft and develop these players. That's what I would say.
It's a position group in dire need of a blue chipper. You don't have to have the Niners in the 80s, whatever. Harris Barton and Bubba Paris were first round picks. A lot of those guys were late round picks, Sapolu and whatnot.
Keith Fonhurst was a first round pick.
Yes, I mean, they've invested first-round picks in tackles, and I'm pretty convinced the Niners are going to invest their first-round pick in a tackle this next year. But I agree. They should have the Ricky Pearsall pick should have been Zach Frazier. Instead, they passed on Frazier. He went to Pittsburgh. He's now the second or third highest graded center in the entire league, and he was there for them, and they passed on him for Pearsall.
Last piece of news from the conference call today. Jerry McDonald asked Kyle Shanahan, I think verbatim, the question was, would it be a reach to say that Brock Purdy is on track to play this weekend against the Texans? And Kyle, who, God love him, pause and says, yeah, it would be a reach. We haven't said that, and leaves it at that. So
I know I gravitated towards that as well. It's like, what? Wait a second. I thought he was trending towards playing in this game. That's why he didn't go on the IR.
Right. So I thought it was a good question from Jerry. I thought it was a very telling response from Kyle Shanahan. Maybe he just doesn't want the Texans to know. Maybe he just doesn't want D'Amico to know who the quarterback's going to be. That's possible. But how do you interpret that answer?
That they're going to ride the hot hand here. That Brock, I mean, Grant, here's the thing. We only get to see a glimpse of practice, right? It's not really practice. It's kind of the warm up to practice, but we do get to see the quarterbacks throw. And I don't think anybody's trying to present anything other than their best. And Brock Purdy doesn't look good right now. I mean, I'll say that I'm probably the biggest Brock Purdy fan there is. There's nobody who's a bigger fan of Brock Purdy than me, maybe. I love Brock Purdy. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a really good person. He looks bad. Okay? Trust me when I say that. He's not driving the ball down. In training camp, he looks spectacular. He was driving the ball down the field to Jordan Watkins. How about that deep ball? Remember the deep ball he threw to Jordan Watkins, like on the run? It was like a deep post. I mean, it was one of the deepest, one of the longest ball in the air throws I could remember from Brock Purdy. He hit him in stride. He drove the ball down the field with strength and purpose in July. Now, I don't see that arm strength. I don't see the accuracy. I don't see the mobility. He looks sore. He doesn't look explosive. If he loses a little bit of arm strength, a little bit of accuracy, and a lot of mobility, he's not Brock Purdy anymore. He's not the same guy. So I don't want to see a guy wearing Brock Purdy's jersey who doesn't have Brock Purdy's skill set out there instead of Mac Jones, who's 4-1 and on a heater and playing the best football of his life. I want to see more of Mac Jones, not because I've got some vested interest in some quarterback battle or even Jones being the starter. I don't think you should put Brock Purdy out there for any more games until he proves that he's healthy.
I agree. And I get the feeling there's maybe a little bit of tension, maybe that's the wrong word, between the team and Brock, in the sense that he hurt it week 1. It was supposed to be a 2 to 5 week injury. They brought him back after 2 weeks. So as aggressively and quickly as possible. That Thursday, we were talking to him about it, and he said, I only want to play if it's going to be me, if I can be Brock Purdy. I want to see how I feel game day. Next day, Kyle says he's playing, and he's not even questionable. So to me, I don't know. I mean, Raheem Mostert said this team has some tendencies of pushing players back on the field maybe before they're ready. Felt like they were like, hey, Brock, you're the franchise quarterback. If you can protect yourself, we need you. You got to get out there. And he did, because he's a tough guy. But it didn't seem like he was super eager to do it. It backfired. And now I'm guessing that they're on Brock's timeline now. And they don't exactly know when Brock's going to be ready to go, because it's up to Brock. He already saw what happens if you come back too soon and you're not ready. You set yourself back even further. And I think he's intent on making sure that heals 100%. And so that could take all year. Who knows? That's my guess.
And I hear you, but I don't know. Maybe my read's a little different. I think that the read I have it on it is that they are putting it in his hands and that he wanted to come back because he understands the dynamic. He signed for $265 million. All the entire league, everybody's looking at him. His teammates are looking at him. Everybody's looking at him. He understands that. And so he doesn't want to disappoint anybody. He wants to get out there. He wants to help the team. He wants to show that he's a tough guy who can play through pain. But this is not that kind of an injury. It's not the right injury to play through. And I just think I think it's all about him. Grant. I don't think they're forcing him to play. I think they said to him, "Hey, do you want to go on IR or do you think you can play within 4 weeks?" And he's like, "I think I can play within 4 weeks." I think that was a bad decision. And then now I think because they made that bad decision, I think Brock would like to get back out there this week. And I think the team is starting to see that, you know what? Brock Purdy at whatever percentage he is not as good as Mac Jones at whatever percentage he is. So
yeah, it's possible I was 100% wrong. It's possible that Brock's the one that pushed to come back and play against Jacksonville. They saw how it worked out. It didn't work out so well. And the team's now like, you know what? You need to get 100% healthy. And until you do, we won't say this part out loud, but this guy gives us a better chance to win. So all the more reason for you to take your time, Brock.
Dude, I think that analysis, I think is spot on.
Okay.
I really do. I really think that second scenario is the scenario. I think right now, I think the initial scenario was like, hey, Brock, when do you feel ready? I'm ready to go. Okay, you're back out there. Oh, now you exacerbated it, and now you got this other guy's playing really well. And Brock, they're at practice. They should see what I see, that it doesn't look good. And so they're like, but Brock knows that he's dangling kind of in a way because it's like he was trying to assert leadership and show that he's tough and lead the team and all. You can't do any of those things with a damaged toe. So I really think that now he wants to get in there and would probably gut it out even under pain. And they're saying, hey, you know what? Let's not rush this back because they know they got another guy over here they can win with. And they are winning with.
And I think we've seen people argue, like, who's the better quarterback? Is it Mac? Is it Brock? I mean, they're similar. They have different they have their own unique skill sets. I think you could argue for either one. I think the most important distinction right now is, as like you said, if Brock doesn't have this toe, he's not going to have his mobility, his arm strength, his accuracy. He's not Brock Purdy.
Right.
So, Mac, what's kind of nice about him is that he can be Mac Jones with the messed up knee. He can be Mac Jones with a messed up oblique. He has just a little bit more, what do you want to call it? Wiggle room. I don't know what you want to call it, but that's a nice trait for a starting quarterback, just to be able to play hurt and still give your team a chance to win, still be able to play well. Brock's done it at times, but the more we see him, it seems like he really needs to be close to 100%.
Yeah, I mean, Jones is not a mobile guy anyway. You know, Brock's better because he's got next level movement ability when he's right physically. I think when they're both right physically, I think Purdy offers elements that Jones doesn't offer. But I think going back to Alabama, going back to Iowa State, and if you really want to assess these guys completely, I think you also can safely say that Mac has a history of taking care of the football better than Brock. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to see that too at the pro level. But those numbers revealed themselves in college for both. I mean, Mac did not throw a lot of picks. Brock threw a higher percentage of picks. So, but I think Brock's better. They both can process. I'll say this about Jones too. Jones reminds me a little bit of Brock in that first year, is that Grant, I mean, he doesn't give you many opportunities in a game to hit him. The ball comes out. The ball comes out really fast. So Jones is a great quarterback to neutralize a rush. And by the way, Brock and Jones both are expert at throwing off of different arm angles to get the ball where they need to, different speeds. They'll do what they need to do to complete the passes in the short and intermediate. I saw that from Jones in this game. There were a couple passes he's kind of changed his arm angle and changed everything about his throwing, threw around the arms of the D linemen. So they both are good in the short game.
And I think the way Mac is going to try to differentiate himself from Brock, I don't think he's going to differentiate himself with his play. Brock was was fourth in the MVP voting and went to a Super Bowl. I'm not sure that Mac's going to be able to do all that, but what Mac can do is show the team that he keeps getting up. That you put him behind this offensive line with Matt Hennessy and Connor Colby, and you get him hit 10 times a game, he's going to keep showing up. Whereas Brock Purdy has missed 7 of the last 14 games. And in his last 2 starts, he suffered injuries that knocked him out in multiple weeks. And I mean, that doesn't mean that he's a worse quarterback than Mac Jones, but to be a starting quarterback long term, to be a franchise quarterback, you have to be the guy who plays most games. I mean, Brett Favre never missed a game when I was a kid. That was his thing. I mean, there are quarterbacks who can essentially be out there every week. And if you can't, then you're Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean, Jones also, it's like he's a guy that gets less. Seems like defenders get fewer hands on his passes, and I don't know if that's because he's a bigger guy, or if it's something that he does as far as his eyes. But it seems like his passes don't get defenders don't put their hands on his passes as many times, it seems like, as they do with Purdy. All right, a little interruption, but we will take a look at our sleeper lineup. This 49er football season, all season long on the Krug Show, is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chats, season-long leagues, and, of course, Sleeper Picks for daily fantasy, where you choose 2 to 8 players, pregame or live, and pick more or less on their stats projections. If you're new to it, use promo code Larry. You're going to get 100% deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. The link's right there in the description.
Tatum Bethune. I love stories like Tatum Bethune. It's one of the things I like most about covering sports. A guy like him who's a 7th round pick and had no guarantee of being anyone gets an opportunity, has a game like this, and now you're thinking maybe he's going to be like the next Brock Purdy, the next George Kittle, the next diamond in the rough, or maybe he was just a one-game aberration. I don't know. I tend to think that he's pretty good. What do you think, Larry?
During the draft process, after the Niners drafted him, as a content creator, we do a lot of stuff around the draft. So I think I called somebody in one of the black books or the college football book from Florida State, and I talked to some Florida State blogger one day, and this guy was like Mr. Seminole. I mean, this guy had all the info. And I'm like, tell me about Tatum Bethune. What do you think? And he's like, he's going to be a great player in 3 years. I mean, he was like really adamant and really like, and I'm like, what? Wait, why? What in 3 years? And he's like, right now he's like 5'11", 6 feet, about 230, but he's walking around. He's kind of a college kid. He's got college kid body and he's got college kid weight, but eventually he's going to get into the NFL and he's going to get to an NFL weight room and he's going to put on 5 or 6 pounds of really good muscle and he's going to drop like 10, 12 pounds. He's going to kind of redo his body. And a year from now, 2 years from now, he's going to have that speed where he can be a 3-down guy because he's awesome against the run, but he needs a step or two speed-wise. He's a little on the slow side. He gets picked on. Man, I talked to this guy. I'm like, then I forget who the guy was even. That was the greatest scouting report of all time because that's exactly what's happened. And then when I asked Fred Warner about him this summer, I'm like, what do you think of Tatum? And he's like, not only did he learn the defense and spend all this time learning our scheme, but he's redone his whole body. So I went up to Tatum. I'm like, Tatum, did you really redo your whole body? He's like, hell yeah. He's like, I dropped some weight. I put on some muscle. I dropped some fat. I reproportioned myself. And I'm stronger than ever. I'm a little quicker than ever. And I feel like I've gained a step or two. Well, it's kind of like Brock Purdy going to Jacksonville and getting a little bit of extra velo on his fastball. It doesn't matter if you got a big time fastball, but if you got an average fastball, a little bit more means making it versus not. And I think Tatum Bethune's in that camp. He went from a little too slow to be a scrimmage player to plenty fast enough to be a scrimmage player. He's added an extra step. He's always great against the run. He's a violent hitter. And now he's just good enough movement to be a player that you can keep on the field and he can play some coverage. He's a great kid too. Terrific guy.
Remember, I feel like it was a couple of weeks ago, Robert Saleh was asked about Dre Greenlaw. And he described Dre Greenlaw's 40-yard dash as, I believe the word he used was glacial.
Right. It was like 4.7 something.
4.73. Tatum Bethune ran at his pro day a 4.77. So kind of the same. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if you look at their pro days results, Bethune and Dre Greenlaw, it's like identical. They're the same exact height. Bethune's 229, Greenlaw was 231. They both have 32-inch arms. Actually, Bethune's arms are a little longer. I mean, he triggers like Greenlaw, he hits like Greenlaw. He might just be their replacement for freaking Dre Greenlaw.
He's a bigger, thunderous hitter than a Fred. I mean, I love Fred. Fred's a great coverage player, but Bethune will knock you out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a thumper. And you know what really because we don't talk to him that much. What really opened my eyes, he told me, or he told everybody that he cried before the game. I mean, it means a lot to him. So it's not like you're not going to get his best. And then Johnny Holland is a tremendous coach. Niner linebackers improve and they get better. And Johnny told me he loved this kid. He said that, he shows up at the football. He said he absolutely shows up at the football and he does it consistently. And Johnny made the point. He's like, hey, man, you can have great speed in this league, but if you don't have the instincts, you're just further away from the play. And it's really is true. It's like, and now you got a guy like Tatum who's got great instincts. So he's already kind of flowing in the right direction. And now he's got an extra step of speed to get there. So I think he's going to be just fine. I'll say this. I think, Grant, he's going to have a 15 tackle game between now and the end of the year because he's some team that runs the ball a ton. There were 4 or 5 tackles that Mustafa had yesterday and other guys had that, and Tatum was right there too. He's going to have a 15 tackle game.
I think if he goes on to be a really good player and we tell the story of Tatum Bethune, like, when did you know Tatum Bethune was good? Well, his first career start was incredible. I mean, to have to replace a future first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the most beloved players in franchise history, and to have to face Bijan Robinson, who was looking like probably is the best running back in the league, him or Jonathan Taylor, and to hold him to 2-point-something yards per carry, 40 rushing yards, that's like legendary. And it wasn't Tatum all on his own, but he is the middle linebacker. And if he wasn't communicating well, there would have been people out of gaps and they would have gotten gashed. Like, what was so impressive about his performance was how all-encompassing it was. Like, he really had that defense playing like Fred was out there.
They didn't miss a beat. And, it's funny, too, because I forget. I think it was Kyle was asked about it. He's like, hey, what happened on the coverage bust? And he's like, yeah, and then Kyle was asked about it this week about the reps. And he's like, yeah, I think it's a huge deal if you get practice reps for guys like that. Cause they, if you're not in the ones, you're not going to know every single, wrinkle of the game plan. But if you get those reps during the week and Johnny can take his time and go through each rep with you, I just think that Tatum was a lot more prepared to play this week than he was last week. I mean, I don't want to say the Niners weren't ready for that, but that they did anything deficient, but you weren't banking to lose Fred. You lost Fred in the middle of the game, and it's a difficult thing. I thought Tatum would be better this week. He was quite a bit better.
Is there something to my friend was making this point to me, this argument that it's harder for a team to transition from starting middle linebacker to backup middle linebacker mid-game than starting quarterback to backup quarterback, because the backup, like, you're prepared for that transition. The backup quarterback's been in that situation before, but like when you really have to transfer the green dot, has that backup middle linebacker done that? Like, when was the last time you actually called plays and got people lined up in a game that mattered with this team? It's a tough transition to make mid-game, and I think it's interesting to see how much better the whole defense looked with like 1 week of preparation.
Yeah, and forget just game that mattered in a game. I'm sure Tatum has worn the green dot in practice and done some stuff, but I mean, Fred practices every day. It's not like Fred misses a bunch of practices. So I bet you he's maybe never done it in a game, and as you said, maybe no game that matters, maybe a preseason game. But you could also see what it meant to him and how important it was to him. And to me, that's really what it's about. It's like, do you have the ability to play? And then how important is it to you? Because if it's important to you, you'll work at it and you'll get better. If it's not, you won't. This guy's really, really, football is important. And I think Bethune's going to get better and better and better. I think people are going to really like him when they see, that next man up thing always sounds good, but it's always predicated on who's the next guy. If the next guy sucks, no, then it's the next man up all day, but it's just, who cares? But if the next guy up is actually good, well, then yeah, bring him on.
What I love about the Niners' ability to draft and develop linebackers, especially these late round picks, is a lot of times you think if you find a guy in round 7, like Brock Purdy or Juwan Jennings, you're like, okay, he's good, but there's a deficiency, right? How did someone fall all the way here? Oh, Brock's a little smaller and his arm isn't as strong. Or Juwan runs a 4.7. Okay, it makes sense. But at linebacker, with what the Niners are looking for, and you look at Tatum Bethune's physical profile, he's not lacking in anything. I mean, on paper, he's slow, but on the field, he's not slow. On paper, Dre Greenlaw is slow, but on the field, he triggers extremely quickly. And I think that's the kind of player that Tatum Bethune is showing himself to be, the kind of guy who plays very fast.
And it just goes to show that, I mean, probably Johnny and maybe it's Robert, maybe it's the other defensive coaches, maybe it's the scouts, but they value things that they value guys who can play. And even if they'll take the linebacker who had a career where he started and played and made a ton of tackles over the guy who ran the better 40 time. And I think that's probably the way to go. I'd rather have good football players and see if I can get their bodies to give them a little bit more juice than try to take a guy whose body's super twitchy, but he doesn't have a clue of how to play linebacker. I mean, you can't coach instincts like that.
I also think they found like a market inefficiency or something like arbitrary preference from NFL teams. Like a lot of these linebackers in Niners draft are 5'11 and a half. And I think maybe a lot of teams just like, I'm not drafting a 5'11 linebacker. I'm taking them off my draft board. And so they find Dre Greenlaw, Tatum Bethune, Nick Martin, who may or may not be good, but they keep drafting these like, these like shorter linebackers who actually are just as good as the 6'1" guys, but other teams aren't interested.
Yeah, no question. That it's all about, it doesn't matter. I mean, to me, the most overrated aspect of football is height. I mean, it's why? Because the athletes who play this game in 2025 are so spectacular that your athleticism means more than your height. I don't care if you're 6'4". I'm going to take Nick Martin over a 6'4" guy because Nick Martin's an explosive, fast athlete who's got, it looks like he doesn't, have great instincts, but guess what? You're going to be able to use that guy in other ways because he's so fast and so athletic. So yeah.
And if a guy's like 5'11 and a half with long arms, would you rather have a guy who's 6 feet with short arms? Like there are other ways to sort of get around a guy being short. And if you look at these linebackers like Greenlaw and Bethune, they have really long arms, so they can still make an impact in coverage. They're not just like Chris Borland out there. Remember Chris Borland?
5'11", but he was great. Yeah. I mean, Devin White had a great year with Tampa. He's no more than 6'1". Sam Mills went, Hall of Fame type player. I mean, he's short. Dexter Coakley was a great player with Dallas for years. He's short. Bowman was no more than 5'11", 6 feet, but he was rocked up 250 and he could run a 4.5. So, you need to be such an awesome athlete that it doesn't matter if you're 6'2" or 5'11". If you're a great athlete, you can play.
I do think the linebacker Fred's tall, and I think that helps him in coverage. It's so tough to throw over him and over the middle of the field, but other than that, I don't think it really matters. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. This win over the Falcons was so impressive, and there were so many stats I thought that were showed how impressive the win was. I mentioned a minute ago holding Bijan Robinson to 40 yards without Fred Warner. I mean, that alone right there is a crazy statistic, but there were a lot of them. Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, there's two that really jump out to me. One, I mean, Christian McCaffrey had a great day, right? This is the best day of the year for McCaffrey, over 5 yards a carry. But if you looked at what McCaffrey did just between the tackles, he ran for 7.2 yards per carry. So what was the change between the tackles? The change was Hennessy for Brendel. That's the only difference other than Atlanta. And also they went with a few more, a little bit less outside zone scheme, and they ran a little bit more power, a little bit more gap, a little bit more of that. Though Kyle said today in the conference call, they do run a some combination thereof of both schemes throughout the game. But 7.2 yards for Christian McCaffrey between the tackles. like there were people that were suggesting that the Niners' struggles running the ball were not necessarily about the interior, that it was really about they couldn't run to the edges because they didn't have Kittle and Ayuk and Debo and JJ, and they've lost all these good blockers. Well, they're still struggling to run to the edges, even with JJ back and Kittle back, but running between the tackles, 7-2 a carry. So, I mean, that's a great number. That is a great number. I think the other number that really stood out is that the impact of Kittle was significant. When Kittle was on the field, the 49ers ran 28 times for 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they got 1.4 yards before contact on average. When Kittle was off the field, the Niners ran for 2 yards a carry. 6 carries, 12 yards, and with a minus 2.1 yards before contact per carry. So they really, I mean, to say that Kittle's an impactful blocker, I don't think it really even speaks to it. George is, I think probably is, we think of him as a receiver and he's a personality, he's a leader, but his greatest trait is he's more like an offensive tackle than almost any tight end. He's a road grading run blocker, and when you have him out there, you can run it so much better, and those numbers show it.
And they won't admit to it. That after the game, they were like, "Oh yeah, I would have loved to catch more passes, and that's just how the game worked out." And when I looked at the game plan, I thought it was going to go for 150. I don't believe it. I feel my conspiracy theory, and I think Kyle's like, "Look, man, George, we're gonna lose if you don't play. We need to run the ball to win this game, and we can't do it without you. So how about playing the game and block? But we won't ask you to run any aggressive routes down the field. We won't put you in any positions where you could potentially re-injure your hamstring. What do you say?" That's my best guess. Maybe I'm wrong, because that would have made sense to do that.
I mean, I need I'm not a doctor, so I need medical clarification. What happens okay, so you pull your hamstring's nagging. Oh, I don't want to pull it. I don't want to pull it. Okay, we're going to rest and massage and rest. All right. Oh, I pulled my hamstring. Okay, how bad is it? Well, it's this degree, that degree. Oh, I partially tore my hamstring. Okay, how bad is it? Supposedly he fully tore his hamstring. So what's next? He says. So what's next? And I asked Husak about it because he, obviously played for Stanford, played a little bit in the NFL, and he's like, there's nothing next. You just have to heal. So how do you get your speed back if you tear your hamstring? And then how does it build up that torque that it needs to? I don't, it's like, I guess I need a doctor to tell me, after you tear a hamstring, what condition are you in? Because didn't Emmitt Smith tear a hamstring with Dallas in the 90s? And I thought he played through it for a little bit, but he was diminished. And ultimately, it can shorten your career because it can sap you of your speed. But I need to know, because, I mean, it's possible that George isn't going to get that speed back this year, and that maybe he's going to transition from being kind of an all-world tight end to being dominant run-blocking tight end, and they'll use Tonjes.
Here's another stat that I thought was interesting, because the run game has really been the biggest issue with this team. Not defense. It's been the run game. And can they fix it? And in this game, they did. And the issue is like, well, why? And what does it mean about Christian McCaffrey? I think, to me, they did a good job of getting him to the second level of the defense for the first time all season. And yet, despite him actually having holes in this game, his longest run was 15 yards. And he still hasn't had a run longer than 15 yards all season. So what I see is a guy who's a workhorse and still a very good player. But even if you get him in space, he's not necessarily going to make a guy miss, which is what made Christian McCaffrey like all-time great for a stretch. He could do that every play.
I think the Niners have a couple issues. I think he's lost maybe a half step. I think their offensive line's not quite as good. And I think nobody honors the 49ers speed, because there is none.
There is none.
I mean, I'd like to see them. I mean, I think the 49ers have horribly misused Isaac Guerendo. I mean, they threw him 16 passes last year. He caught 15 of them. He's a very good receiver. He's got tons of speed. He's obviously not a running back. Flex him out, get him isolated, throw him the ball. He's one of the great athletes in the league. He doesn't touch the ball. He's got to touch the ball once a game if he's going to be active. So that's one. too, I'd like to see Watkins activated.
Why is he active on game days? Real quick before we go to Watkins, like what is he doing?
I don't know. I mean,
Not special teams.
Well, they've thrown him in there, and he's played terrible. He's played horribly. I don't know, but I mean, he's got to be utilized. He's not a running back. He's obviously a receiver, so use him as a receiver. I mean, flex him out, throw it to him. I mean, to me, that's a waste that that they haven't used him at all. I mean, why do you have him on the team if you're not gonna flex him out and throw him the ball? He's not trustworthy as a running back. He has no pick and slide ability. He has no ability to find the hole. He can't really run their scheme. He's a trap runner. There's the hole. Even then, he can't really be trusted. What his greatest thing is he's 6'1", 230. He's fast like a receiver, and he can catch. Get him isolated on a bigger body and make him your gadget guy that scores 5 touchdowns a year, and yet they don't. They just allow him to just kind of wither. So I don't get the game plan there with him. But I also, with Jordan Watkins, you got to loosen up this defense. If you watch other teams, all 22, and then watch the Niners have way more bodies within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage when they're on the defense against them every week than a lot of teams do. And it's because they don't have any deep speed you need to honor.
It's interesting. They drafted Ricky Pearsall. He's hurt. They signed DeMarcus Robinson. He's been awful. Wide receiver is an issue for this team. It might be the biggest issue on offense. Like, if Ricky Pearsall comes back, plays well, great. But can he play a full season? Is Juwan Jennings ever going to get it together this year? Is DeMarcus Robinson ever going to get it together this year? They got a real issue at wide receiver.
They do. And then Juwan, there was one play that I saw, and it was on the McCaffrey touchdown, where Juwan just stopped playing. He just stopped running his route. He was running his route, and then all of a sudden just stopped. The quarterback's moving from his right to his left towards the sideline, and I was looking for Juwan to move back, but maybe he saw too many defenders over there and didn't want to bring his defender to the party. I don't know what he was thinking, but he just kind of stopped running as the play continued. But yeah, they got to figure out, what their pecking order is, what their best 5 is receiver-wise, and they got to get some continuity going. I think it would help the run game. And I like DeMarcus Robinson. To me, DeMarcus Robinson has a specialty. He's great in the red zone. He's great against man-to-man. All the little rub routes. That's what Stafford was unbelievable at. He would run this little rub route. All of a sudden, he's free, and Stafford just lasered in there. I want to see the Niners, especially in the second half of the year, use DeMarcus Robinson in the red zone a whole lot more than they have.
Catch the ball, DeMarcus. I mean, you're getting open. Cleslin Perio says, do you guys think Watkins will be always inactive? No. Kyle was asked about Watkins today on the conference call, and the question was like, how close is he to being activated? And Kyle, long pause, he goes, well, he's, on the team, so he's always one play away. Like, God.
It's like, yeah, if one guy gets injured, it's like, guy runs 4.37. He's really pretty rare as far as your weapons are concerned. You don't have any weapon like this. They show no urgency at all. I mean, it's like none at all. It's like, yeah, we'll get him out there when we get him out there. It's like,
and then they'll get him out there like in a year or two, and he'll be good. And we'll be like, hey, Kyle, how come you didn't play Jordan Watkins 2 years ago when it looked like you really need speed? And he was like, well, in the meeting room, he just wasn't attentive enough. It's
like, right. The one positive in this game, I thought that was really a positive, is that Brian Robinson walked out of the locker room for the first time all year with a really big smile. That guy, he's got a powerful presence, and he's got a lot of talent. They need to utilize him. They got to punch some teams in the mouth, and they got to run the ball with some physicality. And he's got to be a part of that thing. And I thought, had his best game.
Jalen LeGrant says Niners have best free agent pickups this year: Eddie, Huff, and Mack. Eddie
and Salah.
There should be like a 30-second ode to Eddie Pinheiro every show, because he's been so good. There's just not that much to say about a kicker other than he's still good. But shout out to Eddie, man.
I mean, I said it when Jake was struggling. I said it to you. We discussed it. I said that I don't care what Lynch says. The competition between Moody and Joseph was a farce. Okay, I don't. It It wasn't real. I mean,
No.
Joseph outkicked Moody. Moody wasn't really ever challenged. Moody was handed that job. And it's like, that's why you don't hand people jobs. That's why you don't hand people things. Because when you hand somebody something, they don't appreciate it. And they handed him that job. He didn't earn that job. And then they got lucky. I mean, can you imagine if by chance the 49ers were fortunate enough to go to the Super Bowl and win it this year and Eddie Pinheiro was their kicker?
Yeah.
I mean, they picked up a valuable kicker who's now made 17 kicks in a row.
Yeah.
In week 2, and the third most accurate kicker in the history of the league was on the beach and available for you in week 2. I mean, that's lucky.
And like the reason he was on the couch is because he supposedly doesn't have a strong leg and he's over here making like 58-yard field goals for you. It's like, okay, well, that worked out. This just might be the Niners' year.
His 58-yard field goal, by the way, would have been good from like 66.
Yeah.
That's the other
yeah, he's been just phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
Sheridan Milestone says Kyle needs to run more play action. I feel like they could have put up more points easily if they started running some more play action passes yesterday.
Well, I'll tell you what's really intriguing to me. When I think of the possibility of adding speed to the field like Watkins, stretching the field vertically, having Mack, who has the arm to throw the vertical route, throw it, and then all the space that it will create underneath for all their other underneath receivers, of which they have many. In a lot of ways, I think if the Niners could introduce some deep element to their offense that would make teams honor the deep ball, and Jones is still working underneath the way he is with touch and timing, and I think they found an equation they can win with.
They sure do a whole lot of under center straight dropbacks, which looks like 1992, and it was the result. I mean, it was the first play which got Mac Jones sacked, but yeah, I agree with Sheridan on that one. Jalen LeGrand says we would be 7-0 with a healthy Brock. Let's be honest.
It's hard to say.
Hard to say, and he's not healthy. Adam K says Mac Jones has earned the QB1 spot. Brock Purdy's recent performance does not justify a $53 million contract compared to what Jones delivers at a fraction of that cost.
That's the rub on
look at it more as like Brock's hurt. They need Mac. You don't know how long you're going to need Mac, and hopefully he can stay healthy long enough for Brock to come back. It seems like this is a team with this particular offensive line. No offense to anyone on it, but I think you need 2 quarterbacks on this team. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
They're averaging 21 points a game with Mac as the quarterback. With Purdy, if Moody hadn't missed those field goals, they'd be averaging like 22 points a game. I mean, maybe it's not really a quarterback thing on this team.
What you really need, I think, in the NFL is you got to have a quarterback that invariably your starter's going down for 5 games because there's so many great athletes on defense. And then do you go 0-5 in those games, or do you go 5-0 in those games? You know, I mean, I think if you have a really good backup, it just saves your season because you don't go 0-5. You go 3-2, 4-1, something like that. Yeah. Backup quarterbacks can help you.
Yep, absolutely. Adam K says, no, we got you. Hold on. Adam K says, much respect to Kyle. I've criticized him in the past for not winning with the best roster in the league, but this year he deserves real credit. It feels like he's on the verge of his own Andy Reid style breakthrough.
Well, you know, here's the thing. Nobody wants to hear this who doesn't like Kyle, but if you do like Kyle, you want to hear this, which is Kyle was in the same spot that Andy Reid was when Andy Reid went to Kansas City. He's had success. He's gone to the playoffs, and he hasn't won the ring. And that was Andy Reid going to Kansas City. And then he lost Super Bowls. Then he got Mahomes, and it all came together. We'll see if
what I think is so interesting about this season for Kyle, which it may be his best season, is like we've been talking about the growth he needs to undergo as a head coach, and I think he's showing it. His offense isn't good this year, though. That's the irony. Averaging 20 points a game. That's not Kyle Shanahan. They averaged 25 last year. So really, the defense has been winning games for them. And Robert Saleh's been, as George Kittle said, it was your question. You were like, hey, George, how gritty is this team? And he's like, funny you should ask. Number 1, Mac Jones is a fantastic quarterback. Number 2, Robert Saleh is a really good coach. And those are the 2 main reasons we're winning. And you're like, I was asking about grittiness, but
Yeah.
thanks.
It was a great answer. It just wasn't the answer to my question, but it was a great answer, and I loved it because I was like, man, he really made he said some great stuff about Mac Jones. If I was Mac Jones, I'd want to hear that because I mean that was good stuff from George. But yeah, I mean, look at the additions: Mac Jones, the draft class, Bryce Huff, Robert Saleh, Gus Bradley,
Eddie Pinheiro.
And there's others. I mean, there's more than that. I mean, but I mean, those guys have absolutely been huge across the board.
Too Much Sauce says, what do you trust to call? Who do you trust to call signals on defense? Mr. Bethune? Tatum? I trust him. Aaron Salkin says, any apparent tension between Kittle and Fred? I've been noticing this, and I don't want to put it out there because it's irresponsible. It might just be like alpha tension. But anytime someone brings up Fred, George like rolls his eyes. Like after the game last night, they're like, did you see Fred on the Jumbotron? And he's like, yeah, I did see him on the Jumbotron. We almost had to go to freaking silent count because it's like,
right.
Maybe they just have a funny banter between them, but they're always kind of like taking digs at each other.
Is this Aaron Salkin, the guy who used to be the PR director for the Niners?
I don't think so, but it could be. Because isn't he with the
media?
With the Patriots now? I don't know,
but he was a very, very, very young 49er PR guy. I mean, the guy had to be 25 years old at the time.
Huh. Shiloh Q says, is it bad that I'm happy that Brendel is out?
It's not like you're hoping that he gets hit by a bus.
Yeah. So no, I'll let you off the hook with that one. Gizmo Maltese says, Kyle overusing CMC. We need him for the playoffs. Yes and no. Like, I understand why they used him so much and it led to 5 wins, but I think it's clearly unsustainable. He's on pace for 454 touches. You can't do that. In the regular season, you can't do that. So now that people are coming back, they got to find other ways to win.
If you're going to overuse CMC, the key is overuse him as a receiver.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because then he's not getting smoked by defensive tackles.
Yes. And I think he's been overall an elite receiver out of the backfield this year. I mean, is there any running back more productive as a receiver than him?
I mean, Bijan is pretty damn good, but outside of Bijan. But I think Christian I think you could probably say it. I mean, Kyle said it. He said Christian's the best receiving running back he's ever been around. Or I think, did you see ever seen? I don't know. But I mean, there's some great ones. Niner fans, Roger Craig.
Pretty good. But yeah, no, there was a stretch there where Christian McCaffrey was as good as any running back I'd ever seen. He was. Robert Johnny says, Zach Frazier at center and Rosengarten at right tackle in 2024. Larry, hate that they don't pay attention to the offensive line.
When you do pay attention to the offensive line, good things happen. When the Niners got Joe Staley, Anthony Davis, Mike Iupati, they went to the Super Bowl with that team. So
I'm just like, they drafted Pearsall and Renardo Green. Excellent. Good picks. They go down and you happen to have Kendrick Bourne and Chase Lucas. You can find guys. You know where you're not going to find guys? Offensive line. You're just not. It's too hard.
This kid that they have right now, I mean, Hennessy was on the street, right? He was a free agent. They drafted Drake Nugent. He's a little smaller, but I like him too. I think he's talented.
Okay.
We'll see.
Robert Johnny. Adam K says, we should have kept Jordan Mason.
I think they felt like he needed a change of scenery. I think it was partly that, partly cap, partly what they could get in return. They kind of went 2 for 1 there. They got 2 picks. They used one on Robinson. They used the other on Siegel. Believe me, there's far more heinous moves than that.